So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Marc Miller from Greenhouse Solar.
Thanks very much, Debbie. So I'm Marc Miller, and in a surprise to some, I am not Frank Curran. Frank is the owner of our company, and unfortunately, due to some last-minute unforeseen circumstances, he was unable to join. But first, I want to thank the Summit Library, the Summit Area Green Faith Circle, and the Summit Environmental Commission for organizing this event. I'm going to do my best to answer any questions that you have, but we are fortunate to have Danielle Lubin on the call from our company as well. And if there's anything that I can't answer, feel free to private message her in the chat, and she can get the answer to you from someone else at our company if I can't, and just provide your contact information, either phone or email, so she can get a hold of you. And now I'm going to try to share my screen, and let's see if that works. All right. Can you see the greenhouse solar van on the front there?
We can see it.
All right, fantastic. So a little background on Greenhouse Solar. It was founded by Frank Curran, who I just mentioned. Frank is a licensed electrical contractor. He's been an electrician for 20 years. He's been doing solar for 14 years. And he started Greenhouse Solar in 2015 when he and his family moved back to the East Coast. This is where he and his wife grew up, in this area. Greenhouse Solar is an independent local solar and energy storage provider. We've done hundreds of installs since 2015. I'll show some pictures of those later on. And the topic tonight is Solar 101, or is solar right for your home? So we're going to start. Let's just see if I can get us moving to the next page. All right, did it switch to the next screen? If I don't hear anybody saying no, I'm just going to assume that it went. So how do solar panels work? So solar panels collect the energy from the sun through the sunlight that shines on the roof, and converts that energy to electricity. Now, in this picture, we've got an inverter, and this is looking like a string inverter. And basically, the inverter takes the electricity that comes off of the panels and converts it from DC electricity to AC, which is the safer form of electricity that your home will use. Now, this is, as I mentioned, is an older model, older type of system that's called a string inverter, where you have multiple panels that are tied to a single inverter that converts that from DC to AC. The more technologically advanced system that we use now is called microinverters. And so every single panel has a microinverter attached to it, and the conversion from DC to AC happens at the panel level. And that gives you a couple of advantages. One of those is, if you think of the old style Christmas lights that were in series, if you unscrewed one bulb, all of the bulbs in the string would go out. And it's much the same in a string inverter solar system. So what the microinverter does is it allows the panels that are getting the most sun to be able to produce. If there's a panel that's in the shade, that panel might not be producing, but the rest of the panels will be. And so that's one of the advantages. Another advantage is that the microinverter converts, as I mentioned, the DC to AC. AC is a much safer form of electricity. It's the type that you're using in your house, and it's much safer to have that coming off the roof as opposed to having a large amount of voltage coming off from a DC system and converting at that inverter at number 2 there. The next stop for the electricity will be the main panel, or your circuit breaker. And this is where it'll sort of split off and go to the different loads in your home. and then it'll go to the meter. Now, what happens normally with most meters is they spin in one direction. You take, it's like a counter, and it takes the electricity that's coming from the grid into your home, and it counts the number of kilowatt hours that you are using. Well, when you have a solar powered system on your roof, you may be producing in a sunny day like it was today, you may be producing more energy and more electricity than your home can consume at that time. And so what the net meter allows you to do is to export that incremental extra power back out to the grid, and it actually spins the meter backward. So you build up a credit during the sunny periods, whether that's a sunny month like May or July or June or July, or during the daytime. At night, when the power is not being produced by the solar system, you're going to draw power from the grid, as is indicated by these red lines coming from the pole there, from the transformer, and you're going to draw down on that credit balance that you built up during the daytime and during those sunny hours. So that's basically how solar panels work in a nutshell. Let me move to the next slide. So how do you know if your roof is good for solar? Well, there are a number of different factors that are going to affect the amount of production that you're able to get out of your system. The roof orientation, which way you're facing, the roof shading, the number of trees that you have in your area, the geographic location, which was pretty much fixed for us here in New Jersey, and the weather. In a cloudier area, you're not going to get as much sun, and you're not going to produce as much power. The other thing that's going to, and I love this slide because it really shows sort of that fourth grade science class that we all took, and some of us remember. I did not remember as well before I got it back into, I got into solar. But in the summertime, in the months like now, when the sun is high in the sky near the summer solstice of June 21st, many homes are going to look like they're very good for solar when you look outside and you see your roof getting a lot of sun. You also have to consider what's going to happen in December when we're in the winter solstice and when the sun is lower in the sky and isn't shining for as many hours during the day. And so this is why when because we're in the northern hemisphere, the best roof surface is going to be the one that is facing south, because that is going to get the most sunlight, not just in the summer, but also in the winter when the sun is hanging lower in the sky and in the sky for less amount of time when we have less daylight. So those are some of the factors that are going to impact that. And what we do, and what any company will do, is build a model of your house in particular. And the technology here is pretty amazing, and the way that the distance that it's come from where it was when Frank started the company, when Frank got into solar, where he actually had to get up on the roof and measure everything out and measure the angles of the sun hitting the roof and all of those different things. Now, with the satellite technology that's out there with LiDAR, we can use infrared mapping of the globe and actually determine the heights of the buildings, the shade that's being cast by trees, and optimize the roof for solar. So we can do a 365-day shade analysis to see which roof planes are getting the most sun and which ones are going to be the most productive for us as we design the system that makes the most sense. So those are just a couple of the things that we use. Now, I touched on net energy metering before, but this just sort of describes that in a little more detail. I'm not going to read the actual slide, but basically, as I mentioned before, when the sun is shining, you're going to be producing excess electricity, and that's going to be fed back to the grid, and you're going to get paid for that at the retail rate that you are charged for the electricity that you use. So that there are some limitations to that. It is based on the amount of electricity that you produce or that you consume per year. If you overproduce, there are some limitations to that. But as a general rule, that's how net metering works, and that's how we're able to set up a system that will eliminate, hopefully, your bill and make it so that you have a net zero bill based on the net metering that's out there. The next sort of incentive that is available to people who are considering solar is the federal investment tax credit, or the federal solar tax credit. Now, there have been some changes to this and some things that have occurred in the past year that really were very beneficial for anyone who's considering going solar. Back in 2022, the investment credit went down to 26%. It had been at 30, and it dropped down to 26%. And in 2023, it was slated to go down again to 22%. In 2024, it was going to drop to 0. Commercial projects were still going to get 10%. But with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, not only did it restore the level back up to 30%, but it extended it for the next 10 years. So between now and 2032, it'll be at 30%, and it will drop down to 26% in 2033, sorry. And in 2034, it'll drop down to 22%. So this is based on the taxable income that someone who is considering a solar project has, and the 30% tax incentive goes against the gross solar installation cost. So if you have a $30,000 solar system that you are installing on your home, you will be entitled to a $9,000 tax credit from the federal government that will come off of your tax liability. So if you do not have enough of a tax burden to capture that 30% in 1 year, you can take it over 5 years, up to 5 years. But I would encourage anyone who is looking at this to discuss this specifically, their specific situation with their accountant. The other incentive that is available is the New Jersey Renewable Energy Certificate Program, and this is based on the Successor Solar Incentive Program, or SUSI, also known as the ADI, or Administratively Determined Incentive. And in most cases, people just call them SRECs or SREC 2s. There have been other programs in the past, and that was on a sort of a floating market rate where you could sell your SRECs that you accumulated, and that caused some dynamic market activity and caused some issues. And so the state program now is a fixed $85 solar renewable energy certificate rate. And what that is for every 1,000 kilowatt hours of electricity that you produce, whether you consume that electricity or you export it back to the grid, you earn a credit for that. And that solar renewable energy certificate is worth $85. So, for example, if your system produces 10,000 kilowatt hours annually, you would generate 10 SRECs per year, and that would be worth $850 per year. Now, that's for residential. On the commercial side, it's 110. These numbers recently changed, and this is one where the solar incentives have actually gone down a bit. It had been $90, and now it's $85 for residential applications. Okay. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and then Danielle, I'll just ask you to unmute yourself and ask them, and we can go through that. As we go, I also left some time at the end for questions too. So either way. So the big question that a lot of people ask is, how much does solar cost? And you'll see a lot of things online that say zero. There's zero cost, and it can be a little bit misleading. And so we really try not to overemphasize that aspect of it. But the reality is that if you invest in a solar system, this is one of the few things that you can invest in for your home as a home project that is actually, it is going to generate a return for you. And it will pay you back over time. So the reality is that, yes, solar is an investment that is going to, generate a return for you. There may be an upfront cost, or there may not be an upfront cost, depending on how you structure that. And we'll go into that in the next slide. The other thing to consider and to remember is that there is a cost to not going solar, because people don't like to necessarily think about it, or they like to or don't like to. They just don't think about the fact that we're pretty much locked into the utility company that we're using. People don't generally sign up for PSE&G or for JCP&L. It's just what is available. It's a granted monopoly that is granted for a particular area. And so, the cost of not going solar or not doing something is over $62,000. And that's an average based on 25 years, the life of a system. And actually the life of a system is even longer than that, based on what we've seen over the past 20 years, which is a 4% average increase for JCP&L rates, and PSE&G is similar as well. So when you put it into that context, it really is something that will save you money and allows you to take control of the energy production and the choice that you actually can make about where you're getting your energy and your electricity, and doing something that is also environmentally conscious and doing something good for the environment as well. So how do you pay for solar? What are the different ways? And I sort of alluded to this in the last slide. There are different ways to pay for solar. One, you can pay up front, make a cash investment, and eliminate some or all of your electric bill. I will tell you that this is the best the return that you're going to find, because with a solar loan or a power purchase agreement, you're not able to take advantage of all of the benefits that you can with a cash system, with a cash based system. So that generally, and what we can determine for you the number of years that it will take to pay back for the initial investment in terms of the avoided cost of electricity that you are now generating for yourself. And then after that period, basically it's just once you paid for the system, you're getting free electricity, and the benefit of that, that's the return that you get. A solar loan is a little bit is a little bit different. You can do this with potentially no money down. There are financing charges and, of course, interest rates, and we've all seen what those have done over the past year with the activities in the Federal Reserve. So these rates have gone up, but essentially the idea here is that the monthly solar loan payment replaces the electric bill, and then the SRECs further offset that cost that you have, and that's really where the savings come from. It is a more accessible option for lots of people who don't have the cash to put into a system up front. The last option that we look at is the solar lease or power purchase agreement. And leases had a pretty bad reputation in the past, and in fact, we didn't offer them for a long time. There are some newer programs now that we feel more comfortable with, and those are power purchase agreements. And the power purchase agreement basically allows you to trade your bill for the electric bill that you currently receive. So you basically have two choices here. One is you buy the panels and you get the electricity for free. And the other option is you don't buy the panels, you don't own the panels, but you pay for the electricity that's generated by them at a fixed monthly rate based on the kilowatt hours that we can produce. Okay. So just an example here, and I'll just pull up my calculator. In this instance, this is a no money down solar loan. The JCP&L bill that we're using as an example here is $175. The solar loan payment on a monthly basis is $220. You'd think, oh, I'm actually paying more, but that doesn't take into account the solar renewable energy certificates and the payments that you receive from those. So if we take the $220 and subtract the $98, that gives us a $122 bill essentially that we're now paying. And then if we subtract that from the $175, that's where we get the $53 in savings. So that's a calculation that we do, and we work through that in all the different scenarios, whether it's a cash purchase, a loan, or a PPA. Oh, and one thing that I did forget to mention on the PPAs, and the reason that we are more comfortable with those now, is that there is a purchase option after 5 years with the PPA that hadn't been there with the leases in the past. Another question that we get quite often is, I'm thinking I might be moving in the next, this isn't my forever home, and I think I might be moving in the next 7 to 10 years. How will solar impact my resale value? And the reality is, as solar adoption rates have increased, more and more people are actually looking for solar and see it as a benefit rather than something that they wouldn't necessarily choose for themselves. And Zillow actually did a study a number of years ago and found that that homes that had a solar energy system sold for 4.1% more on average than comparable homes that did not have a solar energy system. That was nationwide. Now, for the New York City metro area, it was actually a higher percentage. It was 5.4%, and that equated in their study to about $24,000 in value. The other benefits, of course, are when you're selling a home, if you can sell it with without having an electric bill, that's also a benefit, and you can calculate out the net present value of that over time, what that would what that's worth to a potential home buyer. Another question we get: will my solar panels work when the power goes out? And unfortunately, the answer is no, and there's a very good reason for that. When the power goes out and the linemen are working on the utility, on the grid, and trying to restore power, the last thing that they want, and the last thing that we would want, is to have electricity going through those lines. And so, because of the way that net metering is set up, because you have a bidirectional meter that can send electricity out to the grid as well as receiving it from the grid, it automatically switches off when the electric grid goes out. So there are a couple of different ways that you can overcome that and still get electricity from your system when the power is out, when the grid is out. And the best of those is an energy storage system, which is also known as a battery backup. So a battery backup will cover a lot of the appliances in your home. You can cover a sump pump, you can cover the lights, you can cover the essential circuits and things that you need for Wi-Fi, which is now increasingly a critical need that we have to be able to communicate, as well as keeping the food cool in a refrigerator, using a microwave, etc. Now, there are limitations to this, and we would not generally advise using a battery backup system to power say a central air conditioning unit. The draw, it might work, but you would run down the battery very, very quickly. Similarly, if you have certain electric appliances that might not, like an electric stove, might have some limitations. Now, there's some energy saving devices that are out there. And in fact, there are even some heat pumps as well as central air conditioning systems with soft starts, etc. And we can do a load calculator to determine what will work in your system, in your circumstance, and what type of system would make the most sense. Here's an example of one of the types of, we're SunPower dealers, and we carry the SunVault system, and that's available in a number of different sizes and iterations. So if you're putting in a new system, a new solar system, and you want to couple that with a battery backup, we can do that with the SunVault. It automatically powers your home when the grid goes down. There are also some additional benefits in terms of tiered rate structures, which haven't hit New Jersey yet, but they have hit California and other places in the country. And it is likely a matter of time before they get to us. You can also use it for self-consumption if you want to really utilize all of the energy that you're producing. You can do that with a battery and not export as much out to the grid. You're still getting the same benefit because you're not purchasing the power that would be, drawn from the grid. And it's great for the environment, and it's also very quiet compared to a gas standby generator, which would be the alternative. This is just some screenshots. We provide monitoring systems for you that show you how your system is producing and what you're generating and the environmental impact that is having in terms of avoided CO2 emissions, miles that aren't driven, gasoline, etc. So here are some examples of some different. We've done a number of installations in Summit and in the surrounding areas. This top example is an example of a system that we installed recently that has solar storage, battery storage, and also a gas generator. And that is one of the unique things that you can do if you want to be completely independent of the grid. And if there is a power outage, you want to be able to power everything in your home. And if we have a series of cloudy days, you want to be able to charge up those batteries. You can do that by combining battery storage, gas generator, and solar. So that's sort of the belt and suspenders method, if you will. There's another nice installation that we did in Summit with one of our trucks in front. Here's a lot of companies will avoid doing systems where the roof orientation is not optimal for solar. Based on the types of panels that we can use and based on the design capabilities that we have, we'll try to work with anybody who wants to go solar, and we'll try to make a system, design a system that will work for them. There are other things that we can do as well. In some cases, there may be vents or ducts or other things on the roof that is best for solar. There are things that we can do to move those to optimize the system. There was one case where a customer had dormers, and they weren't functional dormers. They were actually just for aesthetics. And he and his family wanted to go solar, and they didn't want the dormers for decorative purposes. They're able to remove the dormers and actually put on a system that was able to produce, I believe, for all of his energy consumption needs. This is an example of a solar and battery installation. This is one where we had a number of different roof planes to contend with, of varying shapes and sizes, with dormers and eaves, etc. We do have a full-time design engineer on staff who helps us design systems and optimizes them for circumstances like this. We're very fortunate to have that, and Frank is also very creative about figuring out ways to make these things work. Some additional examples. I'm not going to go into every one, but we really do try to work with our customers, and we're fortunate in that we have a design engineer on staff, and Frank has been an electrician for 20 years and been doing this for 14, and has seen a lot of different systems and a lot of different creative solutions to the different types of constraints we might face. This is a battery storage retrofit we did. So sometimes when people have an existing solar energy system, and they decide at a later point to put in battery backup, not all systems will allow for that. So we're also, in addition to SunPower dealers, we're also authorized Sonnen dealers. Sonnen is a German company that makes excellent batteries that will integrate with just about any system, and so we're able to offer that. One other thing on batteries, while I'm on this slide, a lot of people have some familiarity with the Tesla Powerwall. That's actually one that we don't use and we don't install, because that uses the NMC technology. There are different chemistries for different types of batteries, and the NMC stands for nickel, manganese, cobalt, which is combustible, and it's not. If you Google that online and look up puncture test, you'll see there can be issues with that, and it can be a fire hazard. And so we use both the SunPower, SunVault, and the Sonnen EcoLinks and Core Sonnen Core products, which are lithium iron phosphate, the LFP chemistry technology, which will not combust if punctured, and that's the reason that we use that. There's some additional examples of battery storage systems. This was a system with, now they're scalable, so we can do, this is a system, I believe this is a 26 kilowatt hour battery with a dual inverter. The inverters are 6.8 kilowatts each, so you can expand that for a total of 13.6 kilowatts of draw at any time, and 13 all the way up to 52 kilowatt hours on the SunPower side, and similar configurations with the Sonnen. We also do carports. I don't think that anyone in this, we do commercial work as well, and this is a carport that we did. I don't know if anyone on the call tonight is looking for commercial work or carports, but that is another capability that we have. And finally, we do ground mounts, and we also do dual access trackers. We work with a company in Vermont that makes these, and these are very cool, and actually track the sun through GPS as it's moving through the sky. And so they move on two axes to follow the sun as it makes its way across the sky. This is actually at Frank's house. Frank has a dual access tracker at his home. And that's everything that I have prepared. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have, or try to. As I mentioned before, Danielle is on the call here as well. If you would prefer to email to private message her and send that question through to her, you can do that. Just provide your contact information so that we can get back to you. This is our information. Greenhouse.solar is our web address, and that's actually Danielle's direct line, 973-606-0013, and I put her information on there as well, so that you can contact her directly. And now I will open it up to any questions that people might have.
We've got some good questions in the chat already, and I'll read them
Okay.
out. Do we need zoning permission?
Yes, we need, yes. And every municipality has different rules and requirements, and we're familiar with all of them. We work throughout New Jersey, and that is part of the process. We pull the we pull the permits, we do the applications and permit submissions, and if there are any issues with that, we handle that. We get the engineering designs as well. We need stamped structural and electrical plans when we submit that. We also submit it to the state for state approval and utility approval as well.
Do you need, does roof age impact the possibility for solar?
Yes, absolutely. Roof age absolutely impacts the ability to maximize your system. If the roof needs to be replaced, we can coordinate that. We have a number of roofers that we work with who can help package that all together so that you're dealing with one system. And maybe anticipating a question that might be there. A lot of people ask if you can roll that in and get the tax credit on that as well. It's a bit of a gray area. I would recommend talking to your accountant about that. But it is, if a new roof is required to go solar, you can usually claim at least the portion of the roof that has to be replaced that will be going under the solar, if not all of it. So that's a question for an accountant, and I'm not an accountant, so I can't provide any specific advice on that. But I will tell you that a lot of people have explored that and have been able to do that.
Does installation damage the roof?
Great question. So we use both railed and railless installation, and we provide a 10-year workmanship warranty that guards against any leaks that might be caused by the penetrations into the roof. In addition to that, if you purchase a solar system through a PPA, a power purchase agreement, through SunPower offers, I believe it's a 12-year guarantee for roof penetrations. But we can provide, additional information on that as well. Solar panels generally, once they are on, extend the life of a roof because it makes sense. It's covering the panels. And generally speaking, if there's going to be a leak, it happens very quickly, and it's not something that takes a long time. We've been here since 2015. Frank is not planning on going anywhere. The company expects to be here for many, many years to come. The panels, inverters, and racking, if you buy it through SunPower, offers a 25-year warranty, which includes labor and parts. And contrary to some of the other systems, when you're looking, the panel manufacturer may have one warranty, the inverter manufacturer may have another warranty, the racking may have a third warranty. So when you're looking at that, it's important to determine what, everybody has a 25 or 30-year warranty. It's a question of how good that warranty is and how comprehensive it is. And so if you can find one that covers all three, panels, racking, and inverters, that generally is the sort of highest standard for that.
Here's a good question. How efficient are your solar panels, and how efficient are the microinverters?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe the panel efficiency, it varies from panel to panel. SunPower has the most efficient panels on the market. very close to 22%. I believe it's like 21.7 or 8 for some of the panels. And again, like I said, it varies from panel to panel. Inverter efficiency, there's generally a rating. We use, well, SunPower has a particular Enphase. It's like an IQ, might be getting in the weeds a little too much here, but it's like an IQ 8 or an IQ 7 inverter, microinverter. And those will provide, those are going to be limited only by the amount of power that they can convert from DC to AC at any given moment in time. And there have been some changes with that. If you like specifics on that, leave that for Danielle, and we can get you the specific information on the particular type of panel that you're looking at, and the particular inverter as well.
All right, I've got one more question left in the chat, unless anybody else wants to ask anything. This is a good question, but it might be a little tricky.
Okay.
I lost it. There it goes. Can my solar work in a power outage if I have set up a microgrid with a transfer switch controlled by the power company?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there are additional. If you have a switch. So the IQ8s, the Enphase, and then again, might be getting a little too much into the weeds. The IQ8s and a particular type of IQ8 micro inverter does have the capability to connect with a switch that would essentially turn off the net metering capability. If you're not connected to the grid, then yes, you can continue to use your power. But if your microgrid is connected to the utility, you may or may not be able to do that, depending on the type of the type. There's this thing called an empower switch, that you can use. We've done a couple of those. I guess one issue with that is the power without a battery. The power will work when the sun is out, but if a cloud goes by, you would lose the power, and so it would be intermittent potentially. So we really generally recommend going with a battery in those circumstances. For your particular question, you can if that didn't answer it well enough, you can leave that either email Danielle, or you can put it in a private chat to her, and we can get you more specific information on that.
We have another question. Have you done any community solar installations, and can you speak to that option?
So I know Frank has worked on community solar applications in the past. I am not sure if Greenhouse Solar has done any of those specifically. We have looked into it on a number of occasions. We are capable of doing it. I just that would be that's a great question. I don't know if we've done one in the past couple of years. I know we've explored it with people, but I'm not sure if we've actually it came to fruition.
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me? I was just wondering if you can comment on the how long an energy storage system will perform in the event of a prolonged power outage, like hurricane when Sandy hit.
Yes.
My home was without power for 12 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not uncommon in Morris County. So
right.
If you can
my home was out for about a week and a little over a week. So I was there too. Yeah. So and I hate to give you this answer, but it really does. It depends. It depends what circuits you're backing up. It depends how much draw each one of those appliances that you're backing up will have. It depends how long you're going to be using them, how long you'd have the lights on, how long your refrigerator cycles. how energy efficient the utility, the appliances that you have are. We run calculators that will show exactly how, like we look at the nameplates on the appliances that you have and the systems that you have, and we can give you an exact answer for how much you will, how much you'll be able to generate and for how long. Now, if it's coupled with a solar energy system, you could go indefinitely, provided that the sun is shining. So that's kind of the that's kind of the trade-off. How much you, and there's sort of two factors that will come into play here. One is the number of kilowatt hours that you have on the battery, and the second is the kilowatt draw that you're going to be pulling at any given time. So as I mentioned, for instance, the SunVault it starts off at a 13 kilowatt hour battery, and it has a 6.8 kilowatt inverter. So if you have, if you're running 6.8 kilowatts at a time, at once, and you've got a 13 kilowatt hour battery, that's going to last you about 2 hours. So it all really depends. Now that might be perfectly sufficient, depending on, if you're just using the backup systems or the critical circuits, we can run for a long, as long as you need it within the constraints of those systems. So there's also a 26 kilowatt hour battery and a 52 kilowatt hour battery. It's a question of how much you need to back up and how long you need to have it backed up, and how long you think it'll be before the sun comes out again and will replenish that battery supply. I hope that gives you a little bit of an indication, hopefully.
No, that's helpful. It just, as you say, there are a lot of variables involved, so it's hard to just give a blanket answer. Could you just quickly go over the difference between PPA and solar loan? I kind of got the general drift, but if you could just review that quickly.
Absolutely. So with a solar loan, you are buying the system. You are just financing it. So you're going to own the panels, and you're going to pay over time for those panels, just as you would a house or a car or anything else that you might finance. You'll be entitled to all of the incentives that are available. You'll be entitled to the net metering. You'll be entitled to the tax credit, and you'll be entitled to the SRECs that you produce or that you generate while producing power. With a power purchase agreement, you're not buying the panels. The financier in this case would be putting those panels on your roof and guaranteeing you a certain amount of production, and you would be paying for that power that was guaranteed at a fixed rate based on the cost per kilowatt hour. So if you're currently paying 18 cents a kilowatt hour, and you could do this for 14 cents a kilowatt hour, it's a simpler way to go in a lot of ways. But you don't get the SRECs, you don't get the tax credit, and you don't get the net metering benefits. You just get the lower rate, and the financier takes those other incentives.
All the incentives, yeah. Okay.
Great questions. Thank you.
Yeah, these are all really excellent questions. We got a couple more in the chat. Do we do installations for condo buildings?
So with a condo building, we can't do that. It would be something that the condo board or the association would have to approve. It's certainly something that we can do, and we have done, as I said, a number of commercial installations. But it would have to be approved by the condo board and fit with whatever their bylaws are, and and whatever regulations are imposed by that municipality that the condo is in.
How does snow cover affect solar power?
Well, it will temporarily reduce your production, as you'd imagine. The panels are generally black. They might have a white back sheet, but the actual solar cells are black, and they tend to, the snow will, because the roofs are typically pitched and on an angle, the snow will slide off, and it generally doesn't take that long. Also, as people know, heat rises, so the snow generally won't sit there for too long. We don't generally recommend going out and shoveling or doing anything like that, because it can damage the panels, and it's really generally not necessary, because they'll clear themselves relatively quickly.
We have time for just these last two questions that are in the chat. Here's an interesting one. A full moon, does it generate energy?
That's an interesting question. I haven't heard that one before. To the best of my knowledge, it does not. You need direct sunlight in order to generate solar electricity. It'd be great if it did, and maybe somebody will find something on the internet that will prove me wrong. But I do not believe that a full moon will help you in producing electricity off of your solar.
I will jump in to say that I know there's a team of Australian researchers working on capturing the heat that leaves the earth overnight. The heat, it's been heated by the sun, and so we may one day have an alternative so we can capture power both during the day and at night, but right now, not so much.
But you can use a battery. I mean, that is what some people will do.
Yes.
For self-consumption. So you'll produce the energy and store it during the day, and then overnight you could use that electricity at night if you wanted to.
All right, so the last question we have in the chat is the net metering measured in kilowatt hours? That is, if I generate an extra 10 kilowatt hours, is my credit in kilowatt hours or in dollars?
So it's a great question. So it is based on kilowatt hours. So you need to generate 1,000 kilowatt hours. It's not incremental or fractional. So for each 1,000 kilowatt hours you have produced and reported, you will generate one SREC, one solar renewable energy certificate. Did that answer the question, Danielle?
I would say so.
Okay, great. Any other last minute questions? I think we got a minute left, so if anybody
Probably
has anything.
squeeze one more in if anybody's got anything pressing left to ask. And if not, you're more than welcome to contact me, and I'm happy to answer your questions after the fact if you think of something later.
Thank you to all of the participants. Thank you to all the participants, to all of you who've given such wonderful questions, to Marc and to Danielle for being here this evening. Thank you for providing this information for us to follow up. I know I'm one of those people who wakes up in the middle of the night and thinks, oh, but what about? And I encourage everyone to follow up with Greenhouse Solar with any questions that you do have. We look forward to seeing you at future library programs. If you have any further ideas for programs that we can offer that you think would be of interest to others, we look forward to hearing your ideas. We always want to bring the community the information that is meaningful to the members of our community. Thank you so much to Marc and to Danielle for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and thank you for all those great questions. Those actually were really good.
Take care, everyone.